Xpac 12360, featuring weekly news, insider commentary, and interviews with superstars, past and present from the world of pro wrestling.
A new day is dawning for DX.
And now, your host, Sean Xpac Waltman.
Hey there, we're coming at you with another brand new episode of Xpac 12360 on Westwood 1 from AfterBuzz TV Studios. Welcome to the whole crew. Say hello, Jimbo Frank.
Hello, whole crew. I mean, Xpac 12360 fans.
I love it. Denise Salcedo, how are you today?
I'm good. I'm awesome. Glad to be back.
Yeah, glad to have you back. And also back today, we have Bill Handstock.
It's also nice to be back.
Yeah. Oh, we're also happy to be here. Mark in the booth, are you happy to be here?
You know I'm happy to be here, Christy.
I know you are, because we already talked about it.
Yep.
Well, you didn't tune in to hear all of us clowns chitter-chattering away about how happy we are. So let's get to the man of the hour, the host that you all tune in for, Sean Xpac Waltman.
Hey, everybody.
Hello.
How you guys doing?
Fantastic.
We're happy.
I appreciate you having some energy for me. Yeah. Actually, I have plenty of energy. I just feel kind of chill at the moment. Anyways, yeah, so at the, fuck, let's do this again.
Yeah, I didn't even fucking talk about Glacier. What the fuck, you guys?
Brilliant.
Sorry.
Got it. No problem.
Fuck.
Unless I farted right before we just kind of...
So, I was going to say that, like, right as we were coming up, we heard you go, coffee, and then...
Fucking coffee.
Xpac 12360, featuring weekly news, insider commentary, and interviews with superstars, past and present from the world of pro wrestling.
A new day is dawning for DX.
And now, your host, Sean Xpac Waltman.
Hello, Xbox 12360 fans. Thank you so much for tuning in today. We're coming at you with another brand new episode. Today, we will be joined by WCW's Glacier, who will be telling us all about the American Dream Scholarship. That's awesome, but let me introduce you to the crew. Jimbo Frank is here.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Westwood 1.
Yeah, Denise Salcedo.
I'm super excited to be back here today. Hey, everyone.
Welcome back. And another face we haven't seen for a little while, Bill Handstock.
I'm more excited than Denise.
Oh, it's like a
I'm gonna
contest.
fight you on that.
I love
Blood
that.
rivalry.
I think the winner of that one will be Mark Donica in the booth. Hey, Mark.
How can I win if I'm not even... All right, fine. I'll take the W. I'll take the W. Thanks, Christy.
You're the most excited. And my name is Christy, but the man that you have all tuned in for today to hear his thoughts, his wisdom, is Sean Xpac Waltman.
Hello, everybody.
Welcome.
Hey, no, it's good to be back. I've had a couple of weeks now to recharge my batteries. I was so burned out for the last, I don't know, about the last month or, actually last couple of months. And, man, I was just feeling like I was on autopilot sometimes and I'm starting to feel pretty good. So we get to go back out on the road again this weekend and, let me get burned out again.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Looking forward to talking to Ray, a.k.a. Glacier, Ray Lloyd.
Yeah.
A lot of people, they saw, him on WCW and you just can't tell from watching, Glacier on WCW what an incredible guy Ray Lloyd is. Holy shit.
Best dude. Probably other than, present company, probably the best
stop.
probably the best dude in pro wrestling I've ever met.
Shucks.
Just such a sweetheart of a guy, and I'm looking forward to talking to him a little bit today.
Yeah. And I was down there at Ray's and QT QT Marshall's.
Yeah.
Their school.
Yeah.
In Atlanta, in the Atlanta area, and that's where Lula got lost.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
It's a giant
it was
facility,
brutal.
right?
Oh my god, it was a nightmare.
Oh my God.
For like an hour. It was awful. Yeah, I don't want to get all into it again, but she was locked in a closet. That was like you had to have a keypad. Somehow she got locked in.
Are you gonna get one of those tags for her where you can locate her on your phone?
I need to do it. ASAP actually. Yeah.
She'd be like, "Oh my God, Dad's
So,
tracking me again."
Anyway, yeah.
Siri, find Lula.
All right. So yeah.
Well, there's tons of interesting stuff going down, Sean. I don't know if you want to get into it or not, but I think a lot of us listen to Eric Bischoff's 83 Weeks podcast.
Yeah,
Also on the Westwood One Network.
Yes. Look, it's a great podcast, by the way.
Absolutely.
Fantastic. Both of those guys.
Part
are
of the
great on
Conrad Podcast Network.
that. Yeah. We're huge fans of Conrad's
Sure.
around here, professionally and personally. So yeah, no, I heard it.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
all did. And I'm kind of wondering if you have any response.
Well, I mean, here's the thing. Yeah, I do. I love Eric. However, I think it, how do I say this?
I've never seen you choose your words more carefully.
I know. I dispute some of the things Eric said. Let's just put it that
There
way.
you go.
And I do see where he's coming from. And here's the thing. A lot of people want to go, oh, he's lying. This person's lying. That person's lying. And Eric even says this, more than once. Like, this was 20 years ago. And, we don't remember things,
As
as
vividly.
accurately, like sometimes, except for me. I have razor sharp memory.
And also back then, I assumed that someone in Eric's position, there were a million things happening every single Monday.
Yeah.
So when he gets a little bit confused, as we'll hear in a minute, like on the timeline of the invasion of the taping of Nitro,
Yeah.
he wasn't sure when he got to the building. He wasn't sure where Nash was at any given time. And why would he? Because he's in charge of the whole thing.
And I thank you for saying that, Bill, because I was going to say that, not in those words, but yeah, and just even, and we'll get into it. Like actually, just so happens I got some audio clips of what he said. Hey, so why don't we just go to that? Hey,
Let's do
Mark.
it.
Sir.
Hey, how should we start that?
Well, I've got the top of the show with Conrad's introduction with Eric, but I do just want to advise our listeners, while we don't necessarily always have the cleanest program, we usually generally stay away from the F word. Eric does not, so there's a little bit of just a programming note from my side that I wanted to include for our regular listeners.
You
So
been
all the
warned.
children out there, or the parents, cover your kids' ears. 'Cause
Yeah,
I
if-
know there's tons of children out there.
If you've been
listening to
keeping
this.
it, if you've been keeping the F word from them, now's not a good time to listen.
Right.
But here we go. I'm just gonna play him, Sean. You stop me whenever you'd like,
Okay.
please. Here we go. There's one.
Stop.
Didn't get too far.
Actually, when he said the little longer part, that was a little more accurate. A little longer, as in like a year and change. Keep going. Real slow. Correct. finally got around to getting the deal to me. Stop. Okay.
Well, that's the end of the first clip anyway.
All right.
Perfect.
Yeah. Okay. Here's the thing. Okay. A letter of intent, actually, it was a deal memo, which was binding. Like all of the main terms of the agreement, the days, the money, all of that, all the real important shit was all in the deal memo and signed, which was a binding agreement, even if we never signed the long form contract.
Sure.
Okay. Also, I wouldn't have been getting paid the whole time. It's just, I wouldn't have been getting paid by WCW.
So you weren't under contract.
Yes, I was under. That's a binding contract. A signed deal memo is binding.
Got it.
It was well over a year before. I could go back and give exact dates and all that, and actually because all the contract and all that and all that stuff is still at my attorney's, my old attorney. Yeah. I haven't even thought about any of that stuff in forever. But yeah, what happened was, as I'd been there a while, I was performing at a high level. I was getting paid $250,000 a year. And I was being used in a spot where guys typically were getting paid double that.
Right.
So I wanted a raise. Nothing wrong with asking for it. You can be told no.
Sure.
So if that's all that was, it wasn't okay, because later on, and you'll hear Eric say I reneged. Never, not once. You can't renege. The deal's already done. There's no way I could renege. Right. I just wanted a raise. I thought I deserved a raise. He had given raises to Scott and Kevin during that time. So that's why I felt it was okay to do that. So keep going. Or,
Ooh, Conrad.
Stop. So the whole time I was out, unlike when you worked for WWE, you might get some checks here and there for stuff that they already owed you. But when you're out hurt in WWE back then, you're pretty screwed. Difference was, when I got hurt for WCW, it was 100% disability pay. It was kind of like that. I was getting paid my money every week.
That's huge.
So Eric's absolutely right about that. Yes, and I'm very grateful for that. And yes, absolutely 100% agree with Eric on that part.
And they're talking about him being mad at Barry. They're talking about Barry Bloom.
Yes.
So you want to give a little bit of insight on that?
Barry was my agent. I was Barry's first wrestling client. Actually, and the official story is Dallas Page called those guys. No, I went and had a meeting with Barry Bloom, and because I was out here already, and so I went to meet with Barry about Hollywood
You wanted to do movie stuff, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
so we've talked about this a little bit. Maybe not on the show, but it's something I've talked about. While I was in that meeting with Barry, he started telling me about this stuff with WCW and, throwing a lot of money around. And, I called Scott Hall from Barry's office. That's how the whole thing started. That's how it all started. But I was his first client. And I just couldn't jump right away because I didn't know when my contract rolled over. And I didn't give my 90-day notice in time. Also, I very well may have been the first of the three of us.
So when Bischoff says earlier in the podcast that he hooked the guys up with Barry Bloom, that was not the case for you.
No, I was the one that brought Barry. No, absolutely.
So when you signed this deal memo, are you already out with your neck injury?
No, I signed the deal memo before I came to work.
Oh wow.
So that was your first deal.
That was the contract we were working under. It it was binding.
So it's not like you signed this deal memo while you were hurt, and then you decide when I come back, I want more money. Like he's saying, no, they're trying to hold me
at
up.
no time was there ever any reneging going on. Like if I mean, he could, interpret me asking for a raise as reneging, but that's not the case. That's just asking for a raise. You just say no.
Right.
So that's probably where there was like this large disconnect, whereas it's like
Sure.
every employee at some point is going to ask for some sort of raise, you know? And do you think why do you think he came to this sort of disconnect where he saw you more as like hustling him for more money sort of deal?
I don't think he did.
You don't think there's any chance that Barry presented it differently to Bischoff than he did to you?
Yes, there is, but I don't think that's the case.
Okay.
So you're out with an injury, and you.
I mean, there's always, sorry, Christy, but I mean, that's always, if you're not there, you can only go by people's words.
Right.
What their dealings are. But, I tend to believe my agent.
So Bischoff's point of view in this instance is he thinks that you guys have agreed to a new contract on principle already.
No, the original
The
contract.
original contract.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But Barry comes to him and
We
says,
just never, they never got, and I think I already said this, and Eric mentions it took a couple of weeks, maybe a little more.
Right.
It was over a year before we got the actual hard contract.
Right. So at that point, Barry went to Eric Bischoff and put forward that you wanted a raise.
I'm assuming, but I thought that we were asking for it for a while.
Okay.
I could be wrong about that.
But that's the point at which Eric Bischoff gets pissed off at Barry, and because of him getting pissed off at Barry, fires you, and according to Bischoff.
Yeah, but it was, I guess. Yeah.
That's what he's putting forward.
Yeah, okay, let's keep going. Stop. Okay.
He's like a pageant queen who knows one big word. Renege, renege, renege.
Okay.
Sorry, Eric.
If I'm going to go by what the letter of termination said, it said I was fired for non-performance, for not being able to, perform on the, what I, in the agreement. But that didn't come out right. But
Right.
well, I just didn't say it very eloquently, is what I meant to say.
It said that you were fired for failing to live up to
That's
the
right.
terms of your contract.
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's kind of shitty, but maybe they technically had a leg to stand on. I don't know. I'm not sure, because we're not litigating that right now.
Sure, of course.
But that's what, and I mean, I can produce the,
documents.
yeah, I just don't think it's worth that.
Right.
Save it for your book.
Yeah.
Or I know, I just think,
Have an appendix with all the receipts. And,
yeah, I'm not taking this that seriously, but I just do want to, I do take exception with a few things here. Keep going. Stop. When Eric said that, few and far, he was a competent performer, all that. He said that in his book. I'm almost positive that was something he said in his book, which came out, quite a while after all this happened. Yeah. So yeah, it was a shitty thing to say in his book, but I don't take that personal. And it was said after, I came out and we came at him pretty hard. So absolutely don't have a problem with that, except for the fact that when I worked for WCW, I was one of the cleanest guys working for them. I didn't even touch alcohol. I didn't touch any pills. All I did was smoke pot. That's it. And trust me, that was the least of the shit that was going on around there.
So when
Anyways.
Bischoff says that, back then you were saying that this was done because it was a power play, to get back at Scott Hall and Kevin Nash, and he says that you wouldn't agree with that now. Would you change what you originally thought that it was a power play?
Here's the thing. I do understand where Eric's coming from. Okay? It's just that, and I find it hard to believe that it had nothing to do with him being mad at Scott and Kevin and trying to put them in their place. Because there were some things that were said that pissed Eric off. I'm not going to go into what was said. It's neither here nor there. But it was enough that it would piss me off if I was Eric. So to come to the conclusion that he fired me for that reason isn't like a big stretch.
Sure.
You know what I mean? The thing is okay, when Eric was on this show, early on.
It was a while ago, yeah.
And you were here, when your first run here.
Yeah. A long time ago.
We talked about that, and he swore like that wasn't the reason. And like all these years later, like I have to take him at his word. Like, because I don't understand why he would lie about that now. It's just got to do it, man. It's kind of like when, it's kind of like when I look at somebody and they're in incredible shape and they're jacked, but they swear to God to me they've never touched steroids. They swear to God, okay, I'm going to have to believe you.
Right. Well, but also like from Eric's perspective at the time, like the position that he's in, his like possibilities of doing a power play are like slim to none or few and far between. Because it's like, what are you going to do? You're going to fire the guys who have enormous downside guarantees and let them go work somewhere else?
Actually, they couldn't because those guys had a lot more leverage than I did coming in.
That's what I'm saying.
Because I came in on the back end, I just got out of rehab. So he felt like he's probably doing me a favor, and I can understand that. So my contract wasn't as ironclad as Scott and Kev's was. He couldn't fire them.
Right, like they're untouchable, but like the worst he can do to pull a power play is like, I'll let one of your buddies have a bigger payday somewhere else. Like that's the worst that he can do.
Yeah, but he didn't think in his mind that I would ever want to go back to WWF. Not in a million years.
Interesting.
Well, we're all in that WCW bubble and everything's great, and why would anybody not want to be here?
Oh, your friends are
Because
there.
they're paying me more over there.
Yeah. So.
This was the time when you guys had a lighter travel schedule with WCW. Also,
yeah, right. Except me, because when I wasn't working, I had to be on the road with Scott to look after Scott because he wasn't doing good at one point. So shit, I was never home. I was hardly ever home. Another reason why I wanted to raise. So and the thing is like if Eric said, I fired him because of that, I would have been like, okay, I understand that. So I wouldn't have had a problem if that's like now looking back on it. I wouldn't have had a problem with that at all. Because shit, man, like it was, business was a rough place to exist in back then. There was dirty playing going on, and we were used to it. We played dirty, or rough. We didn't care, right? We did, and so, I could see how, Eric thought, you guys are way too out of control. I can understand that. So, anyways, keep going.
That was the end of that second clip, so now we're jumping a little bit to the next part. Here we go.
What a brilliant move, what?
The invasion.
The invasion.
Well, how come? Okay. Go ahead. cheap. Hey, okay, stop.
Can we just,
And that's the end of that clip too.
for that,
What?
please?
What are you doing?
That he's praising you and
deserve
actually
more.
giving you the credit you deserve.
Yeah, but that
Getting
doesn't surprise
acknowledged.
He's been doing that for a while.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I appreciate that. I actually didn't even like want that clip being played because I just wanted to touch on the things that that he said that I took exception with. I don't take exception to that at all.
So we can move on to the next one then?
Yeah. Just like let's go over the stuff where he's
Trashing you.
well, he never really trashed me. It's just differences of opinion here.
Then Jimbo, should I jump to a particular
I
one?
don't have opinion,
think
but
that's all right. Cool. Then moving on.
we just don't see eye to eye on a couple of things.
Talking about
This
the
is about the
stuff.
invasion.
Yeah, but why are we playing this? Hello?
Hi. Do you want me to keep going or third?
Yeah, but what does this have to do with me?
This is them knowing if they were gonna, like, if they had people waiting at the doors for you guys, just in case you came in. That's what this clip is.
Oh,
wanna
yeah, we
skip
don't
that?
need to go through any of that. Like, I mean,
What else in this interview do you want to talk
just
about?
any stuff where, like,
The end.
Yeah,
The
where-
end segment, the last one, Mark.
Here we go.
all right, stop. Yeah, no, I mean, I don't, like, this is all stuff we don't really need to get that into. But, yeah, I'm not sure if we knew they were going to be there or not. So he might be right about that. I'm not sure. And as far as, it's in one of the clips probably, but, he talks about us showing up to, CNN Tower and, there being an executive there and Conrad saying, why didn't you fire him? Well, you couldn't fire the executive vice president of Turner Broadcasting, Dick Cheatham, who comes down when security's trying to stop us and goes, oh, that's DX. I love those guys. Give them all access passes. And gave us the tour of the whole 9 yards. So that was crazy when that happened.
Why wasn't that footage ever used?
We did.
Oh, okay. Oh, right. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, no, that footage was used, and also we did show up to their offices, which like were really unassuming, like just like in an industrial park, and the cops showed up, and the greatest part of that was we had already paid the local cops off, and they were already there with us. So when the other guys showed up, they're like, "What's going on here?"
I think the only other thing was, and it's not even something that you're directly involved in, but it was Bischoff questioning Nash's shifting story over the years about him wanting to, him trying to convince them to open the doors so the DX could come into the arena.
But that's all neither here. I mean, that's just
That's what I'm saying. I think that's the only
that's
other
just
thing
splitting hairs, or he's. I'm okay, and also. At some point, Eric talks about Barry Bloom and how he had him help guys out because some guys couldn't afford lawyers, and he actually guys like me.
You specifically.
The fact is, I had a lawyer. He was like you couldn't get a better lawyer. His name is David Bradley Olson. He's the lawyer that with Jesse Ventura sued Benson won $1 million. Yeah. Anyways, that was my lawyer. And so I was doing just fine on lawyers. I could afford a lawyer just fine. Yeah. And Eric was mad at Barry for, negotiating the deal with me and WWF. And, he was saying that Barry promised he wouldn't do that. Barry couldn't make a promise like that because his fiduciary responsibility lies with me, not WCW.
Right.
So he would be breaking his fiduciary responsibility to me by doing that. Fiduciary, look it up.
So at the time when you got fired and you received the notice, what were your emotions during that time? Were you shocked, surprised? Did you see it coming?
I was on the phone talking to somebody, and I got a knock on the door from FedEx, and I got and I was just joking around too. I got this, and I'd been sitting at home for a while, going through therapy and actually taking care of my father-in-law who was dying of cancer, which I'm so grateful. I couldn't have picked a better time to have a broken neck, but. So I got that FedEx, and before I opened it, I was on the phone. I'm like, that's probably like, I'm fired or something, just joking. I opened up the letter. Yeah, it's just notice termination, non-performance, blah, 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 blah. I'm like, immediately I was, you're mad because no one likes to be fired. But I was like, then I'm like, oh, wow. I've been sitting at home watching WTV, and it's really good. Mm-hmm. You're getting momentum ever since the Montreal Screwjob thing, and so I'm like, oh, yeah.
And had you and Barry been in contact with WWE at all at that point? Or
No, not until after I got fired. No way. Yeah. So, anyways.
So you didn't get mad that it was just like a FedEx and not like a personal phone call?
At the time, yeah. You kind of are like, oh, man, what a chicken shit way to fire someone. But really, honestly, how was she supposed to do it? Fly me into Atlanta and fire me then? I'd have really been pissed then.
and Bischoff recently on WWE Network said that he gets a lot of crap, especially for the Steve Austin FedEx.
Yeah.
But at the time, he says that it was Turner company policy that he had to notify people by FedEx of their termination.
Yeah. So, okay, at the time, when you're in the middle of all that and you're, having a war, it's like, okay, yeah, what a chicken shit thing to do, but not really.
Yeah.
Not really, man. Not at all. That's just how you do it. Mm-hmm. So, come on, guys.
So
Anything
how long
else?
did it take you to, I guess you can say, reprimand your friendship with Eric Bischoff? Like, weren't you angry for a while, or how long did it kind of mend back into a friendship?
Only a few years ago. Because we just never saw each other. And by the time he was working in WCW or WWE, I was gone.
Yeah.
I was not doing too good. Yeah.
You guys always missed after that. That's weird.
Yeah.
He went to WWE right when you were gone.
Yeah.
And then he came to Impact after you were gone.
No, he came to Impact, and that's when. That's like the first time we were around each other again for the most part, and we had it was great. It was him and Hogan that it was their idea to bring me back because I was living in Mexico still. And, I was really grateful to come back, So, no, I was with Eric. I forgot about that for a second.
Did you talk about your firing at that time?
No reason to.
I'm always surprised by that, by how, like now, obviously, we're sitting and hashing this out. We talked about it before, but
only because
how
it came up in a podcast.
So at the time, it wasn't important anymore by then, or?
It's way too many, other things to worry. Not important at all. Not important at all.
Well, because your firing ended up being amazing for you and your career and your stature in pro wrestling history. And Bischoff's readily admitted that many times over that you were the turning point. So how could he possibly be angry nowadays, right?
Yeah. So, but yeah, we've. I really enjoy my time around Eric these days. He's I really do. It bums me out because I really I love Barry Bloom. He's a wonderful guy. He's done a lot. Eric can be mad about certain things, but you can't deny, like when Barry Bloom got involved with wrestling and it raised like the value of the, it brought more money out of it. They had to pay more money, but like earnings went through the roof. Like the companies were everyone was making money.
Right.
And I get it. I understand like being pissed off about that and that, but it bums me out because 20 some years later, everybody like still holding grudges. It's disappointing. I guess maybe just because I don't really hold grudges anymore, like maybe I shouldn't be too judgmental about others that do, because sometimes it's not easy.
Not everyone's as well adjusted as you should.
Yeah, but the thing is as what Eric doesn't mention was that Barry was his agent as well.
Yeah, that's very interesting.
In some things. Yeah.
Did he stop being Eric's agent after this?
I'm not sure.
Okay.
But that's a fact, actually.
Is Barry Bloom?
And Eric isn't really like quick to mention that part.
So do you think like had he mentioned this part, the people listening to his podcast would have been like, dude, so why'd you do this? Like, why did you fire this guy? Because you couldn't fire your agent. That's kind of, I guess you can say, can discredit him in a sort of way.
I don't know. Anyways.
Is Barry Bloom the kind of guy who would ever say, "Oh, well, now let me weigh in on this"?
Maybe, I don't know.
Like, is he going to
Is
tell
he
his
writing a
side of the
book?
story? Yeah,
Barry should write a book.
he really should.
Yeah, actually. But I don't know. I don't know how Barry really like feels about this. I don't know.
I thought it was funny that after you went back to WWE, WCW sues WWE saying Xpac is just a knockoff of Six, when like the whole thing started with like Kevin Nash and Scott Hall being sued because like they were just knocks off of Razor Ramon and Diesel.
Yeah, but they had a point. I was using the names. I mean, he gave me the name Six SYXX, and we started people started calling me Six Pac. Started with Hulk. Hulk called me Six Pack because not like Tupac, but more like a 6-pack of beer.
Oh, I was thinking abs.
No, I definitely didn't have a 6-pack back then.
A single wrestler had abs back then.
No. So I see where Eric's coming from there, and it's just that a lot of that lawsuit just.
Well, at that point, it's kind of like a pissing contest. Well, like,
Yeah.
okay, and back and forth.
It
and back
was
and
as
forth.
much bullshit as the WWF one against them before that. Let's just put it that way. So, all right.
Who'd have thought you all would have a platform in 10, 20, 30 years to tell everybody the real details behind all of
Yeah.
this?
So
it's amazing.
I'm getting deposed. And
Oh.
I got deposed.
That's a little different from what we're doing here.
No, I got deposed when they sued.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So, and I don't even know what this had to do with anything, but the Turner lawyer and my lawyer David Olson's right there, and the Turner lawyer was like, "When you say suck it, what actually do you mean by that? Suck what?" And I'm like, "I can't speak for anyone else, but when I say it, I'm referring to my penis." And he was just like, "Oh,
they would ask that.
yeah." And then they were like, "Well, when you were, WW television, how come you said Kevin Nash and Scott Hall would be right here with you if you weren't being held hostage by WCW?" And I've said this before. I was talking and I said, that's because the night before I was on the phone with Kevin Nash and he told me it would be a good idea if I said that. And they're like, "Oh, Jesus Christ." Forget it.
How to be deposed.
So, did
by
you
Sean
find that
Waltman.
at times they would try and play you guys against each other, and you're all like, "No, we're buddies.
No.
Like it's us against you."
No.
No. Okay.
No, never.
No one ever tried?
No way. No, it wouldn't work. Oh, no, actually, there were. And even in WWE, when we were all there together at one time, but it just didn't work. Yeah. That was the thing, that was like our oath. Like, no matter what, we don't let anyone get in between us. And that's why we were so strong.
Well, actually, one of the things you mentioned in the past, one of the videos that we did for social media, was that Hall and Nash were upset after the firing. Obviously, you're their friend. And I guess, what was their thought? Like, why did they think you specifically were fired?
Good question. Because of some things that were said, they came. I think Kev came and or Kev said something that really pissed Eric off. Did I already mention that on
Yeah,
air?
you didn't want to get into it.
Yeah, and I'm not going to. Yeah, because it was based on speculation, and it's not fair to even
So they
bring up.
saw it essentially as kind of like a getting back at them as well. Kind of like what you
Yeah.
saw. Okay.
Yeah, that's all.
Okay.
And like I said, it's a tough game, man. Not for a bunch of pussies. So like that's how we play. I know that might sound whatever to some people. That's just how it was.
That's where the big boys play.
Exactly.
Look at the adjective.
Yeah, right. So, anyways,
Anything else you want to add about this,
I
Sean?
don't know. Cause you guys, anything else you guys want to know? Because like,
I mean, like a million things.
Then
But we
ask,
have a
shit.
guest coming on, and I can wait.
okay,
Hey, Sean
All right.
wants to talk.
all right. Go ahead. If you have any last questions about this, please.
Bill?
I mean, I do have a million questions, but I don't have to ask them on the on the podcast.
Yeah, but the people want to hear.
Are
it.
you happy that Eric came out and spoke about this? Because,
You mean on this podcast?
that he spoke about it. Yeah, just in general on the podcast and that
Yeah,
it's
no, I'm
out
fine
there in
with
the
it.
open.
Yeah.
Do you
Yeah,
think-
because honestly, and that's just Eric, and I don't think Eric's like, I don't think he's bullshitting. Like, I don't think he's like out and out like lying about anything. It's just his perspective on how things were more than anything. Like, I just, and we had different vantage points.
Do you think it'd be better with so many people that have so many different feuds and they're all mad about something in particular, that if we had like everybody kind of just like spoke on what their side was, so that the other person could be like, oh, I never saw it this way,
Yeah.
and now they're sort of, because I mean, I feel like, there's a big difference where you thought like in the past, this is a power play, and now you're able to come out here and say, you know what, I'm seeing what Eric Bischoff's point was. I'm seeing and I'm kind of agreeing, but also at the same time, we see things differently and we
Yeah.
can understand that.
Yeah, and also keep in mind that here's Eric Bischoff, and he's not a little guy by any means, and he's no pussy. He he grew up
Tough
a
dude
fighter.
in Detroit,
Yeah.
legit black belt.
Yeah, all
wrestled
that.
in high
That's
school.
right. I read his book
yeah.
when he was
Yeah,
on
yeah.
the show.
But all that being said, the people that he was surrounded with, the grown ass men, and that's an understatement. The Mengs, the Haku, and the different people. I shouldn't use Meng because even though he's the a monster, he's just a sweetheart and easy to deal with. I'm talking about the big personalities and the egos, and the intimidating people he had to deal with. And all that. And just, so I get it, man. Like, looking back, I understand why he had to put up this,
Right.
especially
because he was Eric Bischoff, and
This thing.
he wasn't Bill Watts, he wasn't Vince McMahon. He was a guy who was in the rare position
Yeah.
of, he's not a pro wrestler. He has to deal with all these pro wrestling personalities and prove that he's in charge.
Yes.
That's an impossible situation to be in.
and it's really tough. And he has to depend on somebody to write / book or whatever, because it wasn't his cup of tea. Whereas Vince can do that all himself.
Right.
You could say good or bad or whatever about it, but he can do it.
And at the time that this is going down, the time that you were fired, who was the head? But was that Sullivan at that point?
I think Kevin was, yeah.
Okay.
Which he was great. I think I think people know that I'm
Genius.
yeah.
Another past guest.
Yes.
Go and look it up.
Yeah. So
Had you stayed in WCW and worked everything out with your contract, do you think it would have helped, or it would have been good, and it would have revamped the NWO, or you may have split off and did your own thing?
I don't even want to think about it because a lot of things wouldn't have ended up happening.
Yeah.
A lot of really, really cool stuff wouldn't have ended up happening. if
You
that
wouldn't have
was the
gotten that
case.
picture of you and Lula at the 25th
That's right.
anniversary.
And we wouldn't have been in a Jeep, aka a tank.
Can we talk about that?
Well, real
So,
quick, yeah.
Was it a Jeep that then a prop guy made a missile-looking thing to attach to it?
No, it
or
was a
legit.
It was a Marine Corps Jeep that had a howitzer cannon on the back of it. It's not nearly as as great as it sounds. Trust me, because and so yeah, it just sounds better when you
call
say
it a
we
tank.
a tank. You know?
Did you guys initially want a tank?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I just
course.
wasn't doable. So
Why wasn't it doable? Was it too much
come
money? Or
on,
was
man.
it too
Yeah,
big?
it's a tank. It's driving
Or
down
they're
the
like,
street.
yeah, we need someone to
ruining the
drive this.
street. You know what that does to the street?
Didn't you have to clear it with the people to let them know you were driving an armored car around, right?
No, it's just a Jeep.
But you didn't call the local authorities to be
No.
like, hey, don't freak out when we're driving down the road.
I don't think so. I don't know. I'm not sure. All I do know is like when we shot the goddamn cannon, and everyone was like, and all the crowd was waiting, and they're like, we fired. Hunter's like, we fired the first shot in the war, and da da da. And then they pulled the trigger, and it went poof. And I was just like, what the? It was so lame, man. It was so embarrassing. We just started laughing. What a letdown.
My last question for you: the deal that you ended up getting from WWF
Yeah.
to go over after you got fired.
Yes.
Was that a bigger deal than the raise you were asking for?
Ooh.
Yes and no.
Okay.
It was okay. It was more than what I was getting paid. It was my downside ended up starting out when I went back to WWF at $300,000, which is only $50,000 more. But that's the downside.
Right.
I made way
You were DX
more
merchandise.
goddamn money than that.
Right.
I made over $1 million
Wow.
for more than
What,
you know.
How did the revenue work on the DX shirts at that point? Was it split five
But,
ways?
yeah, I think more than 5, just because Sean was still getting a cut.
Well, I've always wanted to
And it was
ask
still
you.
quite a
But
big
you guys
chunk.
sold a lot of
Yeah.
shirts.
Yeah.
I've always wanted to ask you how that works because stories change, factions change, people come in and out. Maybe a guy is with you just for
Yeah.
the night. How does that work? Like, who are the official members that get merchandising money?
I don't know, but I damn
But
sure
you
know
did.
I'm in on it. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Is that maybe something that's covered in contracts?
Yeah.
Like that you can
I think
negotiate?
So. Yeah. So yeah, I made a lot of money.
Are you
It was
required?
way more money than I made WCW.
Are you required to wear the merch that you get money from? Like Rick Rude.
No, but
Rick
why
Rude never
wouldn't we?
wore a DX shirt, but I'm sure he got money from DX. Same with NWO.
He wasn't in DX long enough for there to be really a lot of shirts and stuff, and it wasn't really his deal. You know,
How-
he wore a suit.
Suit.
How well
Anyways.
did your 6-ball shirt sell?
It's the biggest selling shirt they had,
Awesome.
without a doubt. And I did get a good little check for
Nice. That's
Of
awesome.
WCW in general, or just
that. At the
NWO?
time when it was being
Wow.
sold, it was the #1 selling
It
shirt.
sold more than the plain. NWO shirt.
Absolutely,
That's awesome.
absolutely.
Do you keep all that stuff? Like, do you have one?
At his
You know,
mom's
yeah.
house with all the
Somewhere.
rest of
You
his
can buy
merch.
one on ProWrestlingTees.com.
Anyways, I guess that, you know what? That's enough of all this
Yeah.
stuff. I think we're going to take a break and we're going to come back with Glacier. I didn't understand where we were on some of that clip, and I'm like, why are we listening to this?
Yeah, I think we all felt the same way too. So you probably cut
I'm gonna go to the bathroom.
section out so it goes from like one clip to the next then. So it's not just like, what are we doing?
If we can, we can. If not, whatever. It just sounds like we don't know what the fuck we're doing.
Yeah, we should be able to cut it.
I don't think we're gonna get any bad reviews for.
Leaving that in.
But you never know. Some people are. What time is it?
It is
Shit.
1:15.
God damn!
Yeah, we went 45.
It's fucking time to. Hey man. Hey Ray or Mark. 770. 843-5472. I don't know.
Bill and Denise are taking
I'm good, I think. Just bring him in now.
Is Bischoff married?
Yes,
Seems like the kind
Lori.
of guy who'd have like a young hot wife.
she's hot, but
Yeah?
she's not young.
No?
She's hot, yeah.
He seems
Yeah.
like he seems like he would have a hot wife. I never met, I saw him a couple times around here and there, but I don't think she was ever with him.
What show do you have this weekend? Pittsburgh?
Pittsburgh, Blueprints. Did you see this?
Ooh, Conrad.
He just put that out.
It's fine.
That's what I was getting the impression was.
Let's just get another take for safety.
Let's redo that whole segment. You put
I can hear him.
I'm not making Sean do anything.
Fucking believe that.
Hello.
Hey Ray.
Hey, Sean. What's up, buddy?
Hey man. Please forgive me, man. That first segment we got really it went really long, and I should have texted
No problem,
you, but
man.
I was right in the middle of the segment. I'm sorry, man.
No problem at all, man.
How are you?
Good, man. I just appreciate you having me on, especially on short notice. I
Oh,
really appreciate it. Thank you, bro.
Anytime. I'm grateful. I was going to ask you to come on at some point soon, anyways, just because I wanted to have you on. But like,
Oh,
no,
awesome.
I'm totally. Hey, Bill Handstock's with us here today from Up. You remember him from Up Rocks? Probably.
Yeah,
the
Big Bill.
bald-headed
Please
guy.
tell him I said hey.
Hey,
He's
Ray,
right there.
I'm right here. I'll tell you.
Hey, Big Bill.
that
How
you
you
said
doing, buddy?
Hey, how's it going, man? Good to talk to you.
Good, man. Good. Good. It's just raining like cats and dogs over here in Florida. Trying to get rid of this, But other than that, it's good.
It's raining in California too.
Oh man, yeah. It seems like we're all getting it. So.
Hey, Marcus.
Yes, sir.
Hey,
I'm here.
Are you still doing that, or
No.
or
I'm ready to go. I'm ready to go now to do this
okay.
now. I just do you want to finish introducing everybody and then we can get going?
Okay, yeah, and there's I have a few people here on my panel with me that help in case I have a brain fart.
Hi, Ray.
This is the lovely
Hello.
Christy Olson.
Hey, Christy.
And also I have Denise Salcedo here
Hi, Ray. Nice to meet you.
and Jimbo Frank.
Hey, Denise.
How you doing, Glacier?
Hey, Jim. Hey, good, man. How about, sounds like you guys have got a good little crew over there.
Yeah. We're glad you could join us today.
Yeah. So
Oh, thank you guys for having me.
hey, Mark. Hey, when are we ready?
Yeah. Who am I coming in? Am I coming in on you or Christy? Christy,
I
coming in
have
on
a
Christy.
I have a nice fancy little intro for you, Ray. So
Fantastic.
we'll do
Awesome.
that, and then we'll be on.
So stand by. We're gonna mute you real quick. We're not gonna hang up. I'm gonna mute you on our audio board here. Chrissy's gonna intro you, and we are live to tape. So if there's anything after the fact that you would like for us to remove or edit out, just let us know after we finish taping, or stop us and we'll take again. But I'm sure everything will be fine.
Okay, sounds good.
All right, stand by. Muted you, Ray. All right, crew. Here we go. Stand by. Ready to hold real quick. All right, stand by. Here we go, everybody.
Welcome back to Xpac 12360. Joining us now, after success as a competitive martial artist and college football star, he began training to wrestle in 1989 and made his NWA debut the same year. After working the southern states for a while as both a singles and tag team competitor, he moved to Japan and joined the shoot-style promotion UWFI. He was reintroduced to TV audiences when his big-budget vignettes popped up on WCW in 1996 and eventually engaged in a very memorable feud with Perry Saturn. While his in-ring career continued, this superstar went on to co-found Turnbuckle Championship Wrestling with the American Dream Dusty Rhodes and is now honoring him with the American Dream Scholarship. You know him as Glacier. Please welcome to the show, Ray Lloyd.
All right. Yeah. Hey, Ray.
Thank you guys so much.
No, man, thank you for coming on. And I was telling you right before we actually started rolling here that I've been wanting to have you on for quite a while now, and it's just that now is a perfect time because of the American Dream Scholarship.
Yeah, absolutely, and and thanks again for coming to down to our facility here a little while back because they're still talking about that weekend when we were in town, especially the issue with your dog.
Yeah,
we'll have to talk about that later.
Oh yeah, wow.
But yeah, just about a year ago, QT Marshall, a fellow wrestler of mine, a buddy of mine, we opened up a wrestling school in Atlanta, which has been a dream come true for me because we've now moved into a facility, moved in November of last year with a guy who's been a mentor and probably the closest thing I have to a big brother on this planet, a gentleman named Chip Smith. I met him when I was like 15 years old, and he's just been the driving force of my life. And we actually partnered with him and his world-class sports performance facility right there in Atlanta, and just the fact that I was Dusty was my childhood idol, like so many, growing up being a kid of the '70s, and I never even thought I'd get to meet him, much less kind of become his right-hand guy when he started his own wrestling company, which is Turnbuckle Championship Wrestling, and Mike came to me, QT Marshall came to me with this idea about doing this American Dream Scholarship Weekend Super Camp, and I thought it was an amazing idea. What meant the most to me is when we presented it to Cody and Brandy, Cody Rhodes and his wife, and then Teal, which is Cody's sister, and then Michelle, which was Dusty's wife, and now his widow. They all received it very well, and that just meant the world to me. So I know that a lot of people go after them to try to use the legacy of Dusty to maybe promote whatever they have going on, and what they explained to us was we're the first people they've allowed to really do something like this and really and honor him. Because mainly just because of that relationship that Dusty and I had, and that means everything to me that they would look at it that way.
Awesome. And the thing is you're not using this to try to make money. You're using this to give somebody an opportunity for. I mean, I don't like to use the word free, but for no cost, no money. I mean, because there's always, I just don't like to say because there's so much value in this.
Well, yeah, I mean, when you got a live event with Cody and Brandy Rhodes, I mean, I think people think that's cha-ching, but you got whole other motives.
Right. It really is. I mean, a lot of people know me from what I've done in wrestling, but I went to college, got both my undergraduate and graduate degrees in education, became a school teacher. I was a teacher for many years before I got my break in wrestling, and then actually went back to teaching, actually at the high school where Cody was still in high school, back when I was working with Dusty, right after the WCW years. And that's one of the reasons why I wanted to open a school, is I feel a moral obligation. I mean, Dusty was a mentor of mine, and along with some other legendary wrestlers like Luzez, and I just feel a moral obligation to pass along to as many people as I can what I was so fortunate to learn. And always, when I'm passing along, I always tell them, listen, I didn't come up with this. I was just smart enough to listen to people a lot smarter than me. I'm just telling you what they taught me. But we just, it's just something that it's, of course, there's a cost involved to come to the camp, but that's really just to cover expenses. And the awards and the scholarship that we're giving out, it includes so many things, and one of it is a monetary award. We're not even sure what that's going to be yet, because depending on how many people we get in the camp and how much, once we pay expenses, we're just giving this all back to the event. Right. This is not about us making a lot of money for ourselves. It really isn't, and that's not the reason we opened the wrestling school. But it's just I always say to give people a really good, safe place to land when they want to come learn about this business. And so, with everybody we have coming in, it's going to be a jam-up weekend.
Sweet. And for everyone out there listening, your school, Ray, the facility is as nice it's nicer than any facility for a wrestling school I've ever been in anywhere.
Thank you, bro. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm really impressed.
Yeah, and I'm that's one of the reasons why I was so glad we were able to get you over there, because I want the whole world to know that what we have, because it is, we're so fortunate to, like I said, to be paired with Chip Smith, and Chip's two sons and his son-in-law are his trainees, and Chip is for people that may or may not know who he is, he's one of the top sports performance coaches in the world. He's trained put over 1,700 athletes just in the NFL alone, and trained dozens and dozens of all pro players. I mean, you can, if anyone's in Atlanta and they want to come take a tour of the facility, you're always welcome, but you'll just see the walls of the place adorned with all these all-pro jerseys of people who have trained there. And it's 43,000 square feet, if that gives you an idea. If you can imagine how big that is.
That's a lot. That's a lot of area.
Inch of it is.
So, I was going to say, that's a lot of area for a little dog to get lost in.
Yeah. Trust me. And then all of a sudden seemed miles bigger during that moment. But yeah, it's, like I said, Chip and I we've talked about this for a long time, and just being able to partner with him, because it gives our trainees and the people who come in for our seminars a chance to really be a part of a first-class facility where I wish every wrestling facility, training facility, could be like this, and maybe one day it will be. And we're just, I just want to put out there to the wrestling world, and anyone who's chasing that dream of being a professional wrestler, to say, here's a great place where we have everything that we can give you to be the best that you can be, and come take advantage of it. Tell people about it, and just give us a chance to show us what we can offer. And with this coming up in August, it's the weekend of August 24th, 25th, and 26th. We're hoping that'll be a good chance for us to show the wrestling world, fans and you know, trainees and aspiring wrestlers, just what we have to offer to say, hey, you know, this is what, you know, we hope where the wrestling world is going, because
Yes.
we want it. I got trained in a wrestling ring in a backyard. You know,
Right.
I don't really want people to have to go through that anymore. I want them to go to a facility where they can trust that, you know, that they're going to be in a good ring and have good equipment and just good training, not just, you know, inside the ropes, but, you know, good physical training, good advice on, you know, nutrition and things like that. My business partner, QT, his wife is a certified nutritionist. So we got just about every base covered you can imagine.
Yeah, and here's the thing too, Ray. There's a lot of really talented people out there in wrestling, and a lot of, you know, and a lot of them are probably pretty good at teaching, but not all of them are amazing human beings. And if you're gonna get broke in, like it's better to get broke in by somebody that's gonna teach you the right way to be, just as a human being too, when you're operating within our industry. Because, man, I was thinking about this a little bit ago as you were talking, or before we started this. I'm thinking, man, I want to ask Ray, like, did you ever feel like, you know, because you're such a good dude, man, and you just are the type of guy that just seems like you always want to do the right thing. Man, it must have been pretty hard to be in wrestling sometimes, man. It's a pretty dirty place sometimes, Ray, or it was.
It is. And I tell you, I mean, just like so many other people, man, I've certainly had my ups and downs in the wrestling business, but you know, I don't know. There's a couple things that always, you know, that I've learned from people inside and outside the wrestling business, and you know, I always give Dallas a lot of credit. Dallas Page. I mean, Dallas and I have become great friends. You know, Dallas was the one that saw something in me back when I moved to Atlanta in 1990. I got a teaching job up there, and it's like I tell anyone aspiring to be in this business, sometimes you got to go where the action is.
That's right.
You know, if it's not going happening where you are, and if this means enough to you, then you got to go there. And that's what I did. I left South Georgia, the security of where South Georgia was, where I grew up, and I said, I'm going to Atlanta, which at that time my goal was to get to WCW because that's what I grew up watching. And you know, but I joined the gym that Lex and Sting owned. I got to know Paige, and you know, later on, what I found out was, displaying, you know, that certain work ethic, a good attitude, treating people right. You know, when the time was right, you know, Dallas, you know, was in a position to go to bat for me and put a word in for me, and then it was up to me to, you know, to hopefully make it a good enough impression with Eric Bischoff to come on board. But yeah, you know, and one of the things Dallas taught me was, you know, and I teach it to all of our trainees and anybody that will listen is, you know, life really is 90% of how you react to things.
Yeah.
And, you know, and Dallas would always say, you can't control what happens to you, but you can always, always, always control how you react to it.
Yeah.
And Bill, that's going to sound pretty familiar to you because we take that thing for Uproxx. I said exactly the same thing.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
but,
man,
but it's true.
That and the attitude and maintaining a positive attitude, man, like that. I mean, those are just huge. But
yeah, it is, and even like with the Glacier thing when that all happened, you know, I never expected my break to come like that. I tell people all the time, you know, you think I envision my break coming in wrestling with me wearing a blue mask and wearing body armor? No.
Yeah. Hey, so Ray,
Ray,
here's the thing, man.
Yes, sir.
I thought, and forgive me for this, I wasn't familiar with Ray Lloyd, the professional wrestler, before I knew who Glacier was. So I kind of had the impression for quite a while, up until not that long ago, well, actually, I don't know how long ago, but that you kind of had just started along with Ernest, you know? And I was and I was thinking, man, this guy looks pretty polished for somebody that just started out in wrestling, you know?
Yeah, Dusty thought the same thing when I got that. And I didn't know Dusty that well until I got the turnbuckle. I mean, even if he was in WCW, I was just intimidating because he was freaking Dusty, you know?
Yeah.
And but yeah, Dusty said the same thing. And when I told him, I was like, I was wrestling for like 10 years before I signed. He was like,
wow.
What? I never knew that, you know?
and you know what's really cool, man? And I really, and I don't envy you. That I don't like to say I envy anybody, but man, I would have given my left nut to have been around Lou Thez like you were.
Oh, yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Ray, sorry about the language.
As I get older, I mean, it was really cool back then, but as I get older, I realize how how truly special it was. I became, what I feel like was a good and trusted friend the last 10 years of his life. And he actually gave me probably one of my most treasured things in all 32 years of my business, of being in the wrestling business. He gave me an original manuscript of his autobiography before it ever went to print.
Wow.
And I still have that. And as a kind of a tribute to him, I sit down every year and I read that over again, from cover to cover, just to kind of remember who this guy was. I mean, he was a walking encyclopedia. I mean, for those in the room there that may not know, I mean, this guy, when I met him, he was 76 years old, and he still could wipe the floor with just about anybody.
Sure.
And he's one, I think he's the only guy to ever do this, but he wrestled his last match in 1990 with Masahiro Chono, which actually gave him the distinction of wrestling in 7 different decades.
That's right.
I mean, if you can even imagine that.
Yeah.
But he was a truly humble guy, as great as he was, and I just, it was just an amazing honor to just to get any of his time when I always tell people too, because with the Glacier thing, like I said, there are people that loved it, there are people that absolutely hated it, and I was an old school type wrestler. I never thought that's how my break would come if I were lucky enough to get it. And I remember I had several phone calls with him before I made my final decision, like, was I going to do this or not? And that final phone call was to Lou, and he said, he basically, I'm kind of paraphrasing, but he basically said, Ray, the wrestling business is never going to go back to what it used to be in that sense. This is your opportunity. Go make your money. And that's all I ever needed to hear. I mean, if I had his approval, I'd like to get everybody's, but we're never going to get that. But the thing is, that's what drove me forward a lot of times when there was the criticism where people said this gimmick sucks or whatever was. The grand poobah, so to speak, said it was okay.
That's right.
So I drove forward.
Yeah, man. Yeah. Hey, so Ray, and I'm fascinated by you're running UWFI. Was Lou there? Is that where you and Lou were first around each other?
That was actually the first time I ever met Lou was my first trip to UWFI, which I believe was 92 maybe, yes. And I broke in April of '86, so I had a little bit of the indie experience under my belt, and they took us to the dojo, to the training center. We would get in about a week earlier than the actual scheduled show, and I remember walking into the dojo and. Yeah, here I am. I still feel like I'm wet behind the ears, and I'm just, American. I've never been to Japan. I'm walking around like a tourist, and I walk into the dojo, and standing there in the corner talking is Luthez, Danny Hodge, and Billy Roberts.
Wow, man! And, the only one missing was Carl Gotch.
I always say this. I'm not lying when I say this. I remember saying to myself, I said a couple words I probably shouldn't repeat here, but I remember saying, "Oh my God. This is going to hurt like hell, but I'm going to be able to tell this story for the rest of my life."
That's it. Yeah.
So, and it did hurt like hell. They sent me from one side up, down the other, but I wouldn't have traded that for the world. But that was when we first met, and I just got to know him through that. He kind of, I don't know, he just took a liking to me, and he coached me a little bit, and I had a decent showing my first match over there. He immediately came back from, he watched it, live, and came back and just kind of gave me some pointers, and I don't know, we just developed to me, it was more of a mentor-student type relationship, yes. And and that's and like I said, I was able to carry that for the last 10 years of his life.
Wow, and for the people that are listening right now that are wondering what the hell UWFI is, originally it was UWF, and that was in Japan. The guys that wanted to do a like real stronger style, like more legitimate, like. Style. Matter of fact, they tried to say, like, that stuff's fake and this is the real stuff. And it was kind of the predecessor to the MMA, like the UFC and all that stuff. Like it was the realest. It was the realest thing you got until actually Pancrase and all that. And that's what I trained for, when I was first started training. So the matches, there were no high spots and things like that. No tackle, drop down, leapfrogs. It was all just, submissions and kicks and suplexes. And who was your first match with?
God, what was?
Was it Japanese guy?
I've been hitting the head a lot, Sean. So I got to remember what his name was.
They probably won't even
But
know what
I
you're talking
can't
about.
remember.
It doesn't
Yeah,
matter.
but I remember we called him. Well, he was the one I think we called Slappy because he was really, you couldn't hit with a closed fist, but you
Yes.
could hit and anybody that knows how to hit with an open hand knows how to do it.
It's worse.
It's just as bad as a fist. And
Yes.
yeah, and he didn't wear kick pads like a lot of the guys because he was really strong in his wrestling,
Yeah.
which most of the Japanese were more strong in their martial arts and kicking. And so, yeah, he was a tough one. He was tough. So.
Hey, were you over there with Vader?
No, I actually was there, I think, right up before until Vader came in, I think, right after my last tour.
Yeah.
So I missed that. But I was there with Gary Albright and, and a lot of the guys that were great amateur wrestlers that they brought over.
Were you there?
Dan Severn and, those guys.
The Kozlowski brothers?
Yeah. And actually, Steve Day, who's still one of my best friends.
Yeah.
Actually, Steve and I are going to do a charity golf event in Mississippi next week. And Steve, it's funny. He was just sent me his bio. I had no idea he won like a bronze, a silver, and a gold medal in the World Games and all this stuff, and almost qualified for the Olympics in 1980 when they ended up boycotting. And he's a heavyweight, so he's a big guy. But he's what he's become most known for is he was Cody Rhodes' high school wrestling coach.
Oh wow! Okay.
All the other stuff means nothing now.
Yeah.
But he was a great wrestler, and him and Kozlowski, Dennis Kozlowski, tag team over there a couple times, and man, just watching guys of that caliber just throw people around was just, you just realize that there's that level of world class that only a few people reach.
Hey, were the Russians
and
there?
I definitely wasn't one of them.
Hey, sorry. Sometimes I get so excited that I start talking before somebody's finished saying what they have to say. Hey, were the Russians there, like Viktor Zangiev?
There was one Russian that competed, I think, on the tour before I got there. So I never met any of them face
they
to
were
face. I
incredible.
remember seeing pictures of the couple that were there. I believe it was him that was there right before I got there.
Viktor Zangiev and Salman Hashimikov were excellent. But anyway, they used Lou's old NWA World Championship belt as their championship belt.
That's right.
Yeah,
that's right.
One.
Yeah, and they allowed early on. They allowed people from other sports to come in, like they allowed pro boxers, pro judo players, and I remember that was what the young guy that I wrestled against. Like that's what put him on the pedestal was the tour before I came in. He actually was matched up against Matthew Saad Muhammad, who was at one point the world cruiserweight boxing champion, which in boxing, cruiserweight is right under heavyweight.
Yep. And
he came in and he beat him in like 42 seconds. So automatically, this young kid who kind of no one knew about, he got catapulted. Everybody knew him and loved him because he beat this former world champion boxer. And then lo and behold, here I come over and I land this guy. I got to wrestle.
Yeah. And also, hey, how about? Do you know that the one about Takada and Trevor Berbick?
I've heard as well.
boxer?
I wasn't there to witness it.
Oh, he jumped over the ropes and ran back he got kicked in the legs a couple of times. He said, F this. He jumped over the ropes and ran back to the dressing room and lost. Like, count out. Yeah. Yeah.
I remember. Yeah, I've actually become good friends with Riddick Bowe, who was former world heavyweight boxing champion.
Yeah.
And he lives down here in Florida, and I try to get together and lunch with him. And he went over, this was after his boxing career was over, and he did a little bit of that. And he told me the same thing. He said, as soon as they kicked me in my legs, I was out of there.
So
he said, I was none of that. But
earlier you were speaking of Glacier, and Glacier was a really interesting character. When you came back to WCW, how did they pitch you the idea of Glacier, and were you familiar with Mortal Kombat at that point, and kind of like what were your thoughts on it?
Good question. I was I wasn't really at that point, and I was into video games when I was younger, but then not so much so when Mortal Kombat stuff came out. But for those that remember, I think it's funny how sometimes people's memory tends to forget sometimes. I talk to people in the mid '90s, the Mortal Kombat thing was huge. The video games, and then the movie came out. It was a big it's a big thing. That was a very popular thing, and so when I ended up meeting with Eric, it was basically a dinner where he basically grilled me for a couple of hours, up one side and down the other, about my martial arts experience, my wrestling experience, blah blah blah, and then I just thought I was meeting with him kind of like just to see if he liked what he saw, and maybe one day he would find a spot for me. And in that meeting, he just said, he kind of explained everything to me, like what they were starting to try to put together. And basically, what he conveyed to me was that Turner Broadcasting had an interest in the Mortal Kombat franchise. And of course, later I learned they were the ones that produced the Mortal Kombat TV show that ran for a while.
Yeah.
And they basically said, can we bring this concept into the wrestling ring? And so the wheels had kind of been in motion. Eric was already looking, apparently, for at least one person to kind of get this thing going, and then eventually it ended up being the four of us that would start it. But yeah, it was. But I just remember in the beginning, Eric saying that we want to present to the audiences like a video game come to life, but we want to use all heavyweight wrestlers, but we want heavyweights to move in a way that the heavyweights have never moved before. More like video game characters, do things that more like cruiserweight wrestlers would do. And now that's pretty common. But in 96, not a lot of heavyweights were doing anything like that. So the thing that I always say about our whole run is, whether people liked it or not, we tried very, very hard, and I think we succeeded to a certain degree, to really break new ground, especially for heavyweights, as far as what could be done in the ring, as far as certain moves and things like that. And so, like I said, I watch the product now, and they got Big Show doing these monster moves off the top rope and stuff. But it was something where we felt like we broke ground and kind of laid a path for people now that I see are doing things. And I hope that we were able to kind of just lay the groundwork for a path that a lot of wrestlers would eventually follow. Like when I watch the El Rey Network, and they have the Lucha Underground. I see a lot of those characters that remind me of kind of what we were dealing with 20 years ago, and it's kind of evolved to that. So yeah, I mean, I always look back now and feel good about feeling like we kind of laid the path for some other people to come after us.
Glacier would fit in perfect in Lucha Underground.
Oh yeah.
Has anyone from Lucha Underground?
I got to put a call on the Chavo. Maybe he could be over there.
All right.
So no one from Lucha Underground's ever reached out to you, Ray?
Sir?
No one from Lucha Underground or El Rey has ever reached out to you about coming in?
No, they haven't.
Amazing.
And I was very fortunate with Ring of Honor. I did kind of a guest surprise appearance in their big Rumble back in the fall, and I got a really good reception for that. So who knows?
Do you own the rights to Glacier?
You know what? I'm in the process actually of locking all that down. So, but yeah. So I'm hoping I can do that. So one day maybe we'll own all the rights to it.
So with all the money that they invested in your look and your entrance and your gear and this persona, why did they not make you an action figure?
God knows, because they were WCW.
That's exactly what you've said to me before. That's exactly what Sean has said to me before. When I asked him why they never had a
When
six
people
figure.
ask me stuff like that, I always say, is it any wonder they're not in business anymore?
Have you had any contact from Figures Toy Company? They make a lot of the independent guys and legends now. They could do wonders with you.
Yeah, I have, and that's why I've actually started the process of working with a legal consultant here in Orlando to just see if the possibilities of because I wouldn't want to jump into all that and then find out that I ticked off the wrong people that whatever. So yeah, I'm just so if you guys can just kind of be on hold for that, I'll let you know what I can come up with, because obviously I'd love to be able to do that. I mean, I thank goodness I still look somewhat like I did, when I was wrestling. I need to drop a few pounds, but the outfit still fits. But
Oh, that's so cool. So have you put it on lately?
Oh yeah.
Joey Janela's
oh
spring break.
yeah, I do appearances and stuff,
Yeah.
and I get in the ring here sometimes. I'm in the process of trying to drop about another 20 so I can get back to looking as close to what I did when I was on TV.
Hey man, hey Ray, I was on that one
Yes,
show.
sir.
I was on that one show with you in Georgia. It was the second show when I was down there for that. What was
yeah.
it? Georgia Premier Wrestling?
Right.
Is that what it was called?
Yes, it was.
What's that guy's name, the promoter?
Daryl.
Daryl, yeah.
Daryl's last name.
I really liked working there, Ray. That guy, they had a really good show, a great crowd, and
Yeah.
And I really enjoyed my 6-man. I don't know why I felt like I had to bring that up because but that was where I saw it. That was where I saw you.
I was watching it and I enjoyed watching it. So.
But yeah, man, I guess that's just because that was the last time I saw you put the Glacier costume on.
Well, you said that was a
Yeah,
6-man.
yeah.
Speaking of 6-mans, you were in King of Trios at Chikara. twice, right? You were
Yeah.
there with the Los Ice Creams, and then again with Al Snow and D'Lo Brown.
Ice Train, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
I think it was supposed to be Ice Train.
that was a great one. Actually, I just did a show for King of Trios about a month ago up in northern PA somewhere.
That's right.
Which I was in they had their kind of version of the Royal Rumble type thing, and I was in that, which was nice, a lot of fun.
So do you enjoy going and doing those shows and seeing how much of an impact Glacier really had on fans?
I do, and you know what? And it is one of the nicest, most humbling things in the world when someone comes up to me and tells me anything about that where I might have had some kind of little influence on them, for whatever reason. And because I always tell everybody, that will listen is, I was a wrestling fan first. I still am a wrestling fan. I love this business. I want it to be good. I want there to be all these places for these people that I call the dreamers, and I'm a dreamer too, So,
Yeah.
but the chasing this dream that a lot of people are telling, like, what the hell are you thinking? That you can't go do that. Well, yeah, you can, and and if there's someone out there that if I inspire them just a little bit, there's something about my look or what I did in the ring that says, hey, I want to go do something like that, then I'm so glad that I get a chance to meet any of those people, because I used to be the young one, trying to talk to the veteran and saying, hey, you inspired me to do this, and that's, I can honestly tell you, I mean, and this is not just some nice fluffy statement. This is the God's honest truth. I always say about the wrestling business that I've achieved a lot, and I've Dusty helped me achieve, one my childhood dream was, because I have a twin brother. A lot of people don't know that, and I could never get him to get into wrestling full time. but our childhood dream was to be the NWA World Tag Team Champions, like Jack and Jerry Briscoe. That's who we grew up watching, and Dusty made that happen for me, to where I could actually win the NWA World Tag Team titles. Had a very short run, but I didn't care. I'm in the record books, and that was my childhood dream that got accomplished. And my childhood hero was the one that made it happen, which was even more amazing. But, just the fact that I always say this, the biggest achievement I have ever achieved in this business is being able to walk into a room of established wrestling veterans who I admire and look up to so much, and be accepted among that group, to have a seat at the table with those people, is the greatest privilege and honor I could ever imagine from this business. From some, a kid from South Georgia who never thought he'd be doing this, really, to be able to do that is, Larry Zbyszko lives in my neighborhood here, and recently I ran into him into the Subway sub shop, and he comes up and forearms me from behind, we're standing around talking in the Subway shop, and I'm just sitting there looking at him, and Larry and I have been friends forever, but I'm just sitting there, and I have one of these just childhood wrestling fan moments, and I go, I'm sitting here BSing with the living legend Larry Zbyszko. It's just, so that's, I hope that if I can give anything like that to anybody that in this wrestling business that's coming, behind me, then, I'm just thrilled to death. And I really am, sincerely. I mean that from the heart.
Well, Ray, to just bring it full circle then, you've got the American Dream Scholarship coming up, and you're one of the few, if not the only person in the world to have been coached and sit under the learning tree with both Lou Thez and the American Dream. Now you're running your own wrestling school. What's the one thing from both Lou Thez and the American Dream that you want to pass on to the next generation of pro wrestlers?
Oh, wow. I think, I don't know if I could say it's a unilateral thing by both of them, but I can say, one thing from each one of them is that, from Lou, the thing that I most got from Lou was that, that to present yourself to the world, if you're going to be taken seriously, you got to present yourself as a professional, and you got to look the part, and I forget who said it to me first, but I remember, if you got to dress for the job you want to get, if you don't have it, and he was just really big on that, and that's one of the things I really pitch a lot is you got to look the part, and for Dusty, I think the one thing that I really learned from Dusty is embrace what makes you unique, instead of trying to put together a character that really may or may not be who you are. Embrace what makes you unique, and take that and find a way to turn the volume way up on that. And that's just, because Dusty was a pretty unique guy, and he just, that's one of the main things that I saw him live, and that he was very proud of us. He was a very unique personality, and that's what's going to make him memorable for generations to come, is the fact that he was so memorable because of that. And those are the two things that immediately popped in my head when you asked that.
I'm so grateful that I grew up on dusty roads in Florida. I mean,
Me too.
it just I was showing a friend of mine that only got to see the old WWF All-Star Wrestling that they used to, play. It's on the WWE network right now, actually, $9.99. But I'm showing him. I'm like, that's what you guys got to watch. Now let me show you what I got to grow up with. And I just showed him Dusty and all these different angles he was in, and the promos, and just all that really cool stuff. And he's like just blown away by it. He's like, wow, you got this when you were growing up? Wow.
Exactly.
So man. And,
Same here.
And so speaking of the NWO 6-ball shirt, when I was out hurt and recovering from my neck surgery, every week somebody would like shout out to me, and it would be Macho Man or this person or that person. And one week, man, I'm watching, and there's Dusty Rhodes with my T-shirt on, throwing to me and telling me, "We miss you, 6-Pac," and blah blah blah. And it was just one of the greatest things ever.
Isn't it though? I mean, things like that is just that we because I know Sean, you and I mean, we're kind of like these kindred spirits. We got into the wrestling business for basically the same kind of reasons. We just absolutely love this stuff, and I always say, I never got into business to be rich or famous. I was certainly glad that I was able to have some of that, if you want to call it that. But that's not why I got into it. I got into wrestling because this is what absolutely makes me come alive. Being in a wrestling ring is the greatest feeling in the world, and I don't have to have anybody watching me. I can just be standing in an empty room in a wrestling ring, and there's just something about it that I can't even describe. And I always say, I wish everybody could feel what that feels like, because it's just an unbelievably great feeling. And that's the one thing, like with Dusty. I mean, Dusty, I think Dusty willed himself to be a superstar. I mean, I was with him one time when this reporter asked if she was following me for a weekend, and she said, Mr. Rhodes, what was it like going back to your hometown after you became famous? And he looked at her and he said, "Darling, I always thought I was famous." Yeah. he just had that. Yeah. So that's another belt I give off. You got to believe in yourself first before anybody else is going to believe in you.
Yeah, man. Hey, Ray, when you were a kid, I just something you were saying a little bit ago made me think of this. Did you have people that were telling you, go college, just do this. You're pissed. You're barking up the wrong tree. You're never going to make it. Like trying to, man, because I hear you now, and all right, what I'm trying to say is I don't like dream killers, man. I don't like people that are always trying to kill other people's dreams because for some reason or another, they didn't follow theirs. Whether they were too scared or they just listened to the wrong advice, So now, like years later, they're doing the same thing, and I'm just like, we need to break that cycle of dream killers.
Yeah, I've used the same phrase all the time, Sean, and I did. I was very fortunate to have some great mentors and coaches in my life ever since I was little. But when I got to college, one of my coaches, my college football coaches, who I really, really looked up to. About 2 years after I graduated, and I was already wrestling and out there. I was teaching school and wrestling on the weekends and taking any booking I could get, and I was loving life. And I came back for a football game. And I ran into him, after the game in the locker room, and he was actually, on his way out, and I was coming in just to say hey to some of the other coaches, and we stopped and we talked, and after a little bit of small talk, he asked me what I was doing. I told him I was still pursuing the wrestling dream, and he just looked at me and he just got this blank look on his face, and he just said to me, he said, when are you gonna, stop playing around with that BS? And man, I'm telling you, my heart sunk down to the bottom of my feet, and I was just like, this guy who I so looked up to and who I thought believed in me actually doesn't, or doesn't believe in my dream, and I'll tell you what, I mean, I sulked for a little while, and then I turned it around. So one of the things I always tell people to, is if you want to see what I can do, then tell me what I can't do.
Amen.
And that's just what drives me, and from that point on, I set my sights and I said, by God, I don't know if I'm going to be able to make this, but I know this, I'm going to do everything in my power to make it, and we'll see where it takes me, and it's been a pretty darn good ride.
Amen. Amen. Believing in yourself and not doubting yourself. That's where it's at. Because man, no one else has to believe in you if you believe in yourself. you know, because when I was starting, and from the time I was 10, and Ray, I've talked about this a bunch. My very first live wrestling match was Nature Boy Ric Flair versus Dusty Rhodes, the American Dream, for the NWA World Heavyweight title. That was my first live experience, and I knew what I was going to do. Yeah, I knew what I was going to do right then and there, and no one else believed in me. Like, and anyone that said, and I put this in a tweet the other day. I'm like, I said, no, you did not think I could always think I could do it, but I always did. And that's all that I needed. All I needed, man, and that's all that everyone out there needs. Like, it's great when you have other people believe in you, but just believe in yourself.
Right. Yeah, it's got to start with you. And I tell you what, I mean, I heard something the other day that has just really stuck with me, and it goes along with believing in yourself. And I heard someone say that you are the only person that you can guarantee will never leave you.
That's right.
And I thought, man, that's powerful, you know. And so, but if you believe in yourself first, then you surround yourself with a supportive environment, people who also believe in your dream. You know, like I've got a mentor of mine, and she always says, surround yourself with yes and people. And what she means by that is just find people, when you tell them about your dream, they go, yes, I get it. And how about this? You know, how about this? And, you know, and find those people, because they're out there. You just got to look for them. And then the other ones, you know, not to say you got to cut them out of your life, but, you know, I always tell them, you know, look, you know, like in football, you don't have to block for me, but don't tackle me either.
Yeah,
just,
get out of the way.
Step inside, you know?
Just get out of the way.
Yeah, just get out of the way. Let me fall on my face if I'm going to fall, but that's okay.
Yeah.
You know, because I think most people can live. You know, people, you know, sit there and say, you know, everybody's afraid of failure. You know, and when people say, you know, that famous saying, failure is not an option. Well, in that scenario, of course, it really wasn't. But failure is an option. Failure is mandatory. I mean, you're going to have to fail a lot to be successful, whatever it's going to be, whether it's wrestling or anything. And failure is a good thing. It's just an opportunity to figure out, okay, how do I adjust, and then move forward again, and surround yourself with people that believe that same philosophy, and you know, whatever it is, and good things are bound to happen.
Yeah.
Well, wow, this has been even more inspiring than I think we could have hoped. For everybody out there who wants to attend the camp and are interested in hearing more about the scholarship, where can they do that at?
Well, probably the easiest place to go is just to our Facebook page, which is just One Fall Power Factory, and we'll keep posting all the information on there, and just to kind of let people know real quick, I mean, who we have coming in. We've got Dr. Tom Pritchard coming in, who was, a former WWE trainer, Les Thatcher, who's a legendary wrestler. If you've been in the business long enough to have a cup of coffee, you know who Les Thatcher is, and I've become great friends with him, and he's just an amazing coach and trainer. And then we have Kevin Kelly coming in, who's, anyone that follows wrestling knows Kevin Kelly is probably one of the most well-known behind-the-scenes people in the wrestling business in the last 25 years, as far as working for WWE, basically any of the major companies. And these are the people who can give you that type of, advice on how to navigate your career. And the thing that I want to make sure that everyone knows who's listening and who's considering coming to the camp, these three coaches will be making the decisions on who wins the scholarships for our first male and female scholarship recipient. QT and I, who own the facility and are putting the camp on, we will have no say-so in that. This will be totally up to them and who they feel like can do a great job in this camp. And they're going to be looking for not just who's the most talented, they're going to be looking for all the things: work ethic, attitude, coachability, professionalism, and as Dusty always says, the X factor, that charisma that made him so famous.
Yeah.
So, I had someone say the other day, well, I couldn't have a chance at that scholarship. I'm not a good enough athlete. It's not just about that. It's about coming in and being a total package, and they're going to determine who will be the one that they feel is most deserving and who can do the most with the scholarship. But all the information is going to be it'll be on our Facebook page. It's a 3-day event, the weekend of August 24th and 25th. It's open to anybody of any level. If you just started training or you're a veteran, it's going to be, if nothing else, it's a great weekend to just come network with other people in the industry.
For sure.
And learn from some of the best coaches and most notable coaches in the industry as well.
Yeah. Hey, Ray, thank you so much, man.
Yes, sir. I'm
really, really grateful that you came on and spent some time with us today, man.
Sean, man, I love you, man, and I appreciate you having me on, and I would be thrilled to come back on anytime you guys would ever have me.
Maybe when we get closer to the time of April 24th time, we'll have you back on to remind everybody.
Yeah. Oh, I would be thrilled to come back on. And thank you, man. I really appreciate everything.
And any social media stuff you want to plug real quick?
You know what? I'm out there on social media on Facebook, but it's just at Ray Lloyd, which is my personal page. I still have some room left to accept some friends, so if people want to try to friend request me, I'll do my best to accept them. But pretty much everything that I have now is going through the One Fall Power Factory website or on Facebook page. So
that's not
I post most of everything there too.
So that's not your Twitter account that I'm following?
Oh no, yeah, it is. I am Glacier is my Twitter. Yeah.
Okay.
I was like, it got the blue check mark.
No, that's it. It's definitely that's
right.
me. So.
All right. Hey, man, thank you so much again, man. I hope you have an awesome day, Ray, and I love you too, my friend.
All right, Sean. Thank you, guys. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks, bye.
Sweet. All right. So, hey, Jimbo, anything you want to mention before we get out of here?
Well, definitely follow Sean on Twitter at TheRealXpac. Follow us on Instagram, Xpac12360. Facebook at Xpac12360 Show. Buy Sean's t-shirts at ProWrestlingTees.com/Sean Waltman. And you'll be in Pittsburgh this weekend.
Yes.
I'm
doing I thought you had the information
I just
pulled
had
up,
Pittsburgh,
man.
that's all.
I'll be in Pittsburgh on June 2nd, which is this Saturday. And do you even have the website pulled up?
No, you just told me Pittsburgh.
And never mind. All right.
Let's start this again.
Huh?
Let's cut, and then we'll do the toss to me, and then I'll say your stuff.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm going to look it up.
Can we pause this, Mark? Or no? Okay.
I can't get my phone.
Shit.
I got nothing. There we go.
Fuck. It's Blueprints for Addiction Recovery. Like, somebody look it up. I'm sorry. I thought it was all.
It's not a wrestling show?
No.
Oh.
No. It's me talking to people about drugs.
That explains why I couldn't find
Yeah.
it.
Have you...
Fuck. I just as soon not do this than if it's going to be. I mean, this part of like just having to plug everything. If it's not going to make or break the bank. No, Pittsburgh.
Their Twitter handle is at Blueprints4AR.
Yes.
Yep.
1 o'clock. And it's at something fire hall or fucking some kind of shit. Sorry to make you cut this and fucking do extra work, Mark. Sorry, Jimbo. Can you find it while I'm going to the bathroom?
Yeah.
Elizabethtown, he said, right?
No.
He said
Oh,
Pittsburgh.
Any reneging going on?
And he says that you wouldn't agree with that.
doesn't really work. Okay, so here's the website. Do we have upcoming events?
Doors for you guys, just in case you came in. That's what this clip is.
Oh yeah, we
skip
don't
that.
need to go through any of that. Like, I mean,
What else in this interview do you want to talk
just
about?
any stuff where like,
The end.
yeah,
The
where
end segment, the last one, Mark.
June 2nd, right?
Yeah, June 2nd.
June 2nd. Breaking the cycle.
Yeah, we-
addiction, Pittsburgh.
I'm not sure if we knew they were going to be there or not. So he might be right about that. I'm not sure.
3600 Library
One
Road,
of the clips
Pittsburgh.
probably, you know, they're being probably
if that's
as far as it's in one of the
tickets
clips
on
probably, and as far as sure. I'm not sure if we knew they were going to be there or
3600
not.
Library Road.
So he might be right about that. I'm not sure. You know, and as far as it's in one of the clips probably, but you know he talks about us showing up. They do the fucking worst job on marketing. I swear. Lou, not right now. Because when I wasn't working, I had to be on the road with Scott to look after Scott because he wasn't doing good at work.
Community. Oh no, never mind.
We're over there.
Yeah. So.
This was the time when you guys had a lighter travel schedule with WCW. Also,
Yeah, right. Except.
It is the Castle Shannon Fire Department.
Eric fucking just left me a message. Can you give me a call?
I'll call you after my show goes
Yeah.
live.
15234.
Eventbrite, Breaking the Cycle, Communities Against Addiction. That's like the name of the actual event.
Communities Against Addiction.
I have a nice little write up on their Facebook page about you being there and stuff.
But they don't have the fucking name of the buildings?
Right.
Put Breaking the Cycle. So Shannon Fire, after Shannon Fire, put Eventbrite and then space Breaking the Cycle. Because Eventbrite's where you can find it, but this is like the name of the event. Breaking the Cycle, Communities Against Addiction, and then yeah, you have all of that. 1 p.m. And yeah, that's pretty much that.
Pittsburgh, June 2nd. Blueprints for Recovery at 1 o'clock, 3600 Library Road, Castle Shannon Fire Department. Eventbrite.
Where did you find that?
Eventbrite.
We had to do a bunch of Googling.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
Because it had the address, and then we had to Google the address to
Yeah.
find out what the name of the place was. That's fine.
No, it's not. For somebody, no one should have to look.
Well, that's why we're providing the service of having all the information in one place. We good?
Yeah. All right. Where were we?
You just tossed to Jimbo, asked him for the
Blueprints
details.
Recovery presents Breaking the Cycle Community.
What do you need? Mark, can you hear me? Yeah.
He's also got a Lula in his lap.
So I don't need to say anything? You just cut to Jimbo? I don't know.
No, like he's wondering if Eric's telling you like cut shit out. Like what are you saying?
What, his shit aired?
Controversy creates cash, right?
Yeah.
It's the name of his book.
Yeah.
Let's do it. Let's do it. Thanks again to Glacier for coming on and telling us about the American Dream Scholarship. Jimbo, where am I at this weekend?
This weekend, you'll be in Pittsburgh, June 2nd at 1 o'clock for Blueprints for Recovery, Breaking the Cycle, Communities Against Addiction, 3600 Library Road, Castle Shannon Fire Department. Tickets at eventbrite.com. Also, follow Sean on Twitter at TheRealXpac. Instagram, Xpac12360, and buy the shirts at prowrestlingtees.com/Sean Waltman.
Sweet. I think that's it, right?
That is it.
All right. Well, let's get out of here. And thanks, everybody, for tuning in this week. And next week, we're going to have another great show. Not sure who our guest is, but hey, anyways, and my phone, I should have turned it off. Anyways, hey, we'll see y'all right here next week. AfterBuzz TV, Westwood One, Jericho Network. Yay.
From executive producers Maria Menounos, Keven Undergaro, Phil Svitek, Sean Waltman, producers Mark B. Donica, Jimbo Frank, Christy Olson, and the entire Xpac 12360 staff, we would like to thank you for tuning in. Like us on Facebook, rate and comment on iTunes and YouTube. Follow Xpac on Twitter @TheRealXpac and email us at xpac12360show@gmail.com.
The Westwood One Podcast Network.